Welcome to the Latino podcast, where we discuss the intersection of law and our Latino communities with legal, political, and community leaders and visionaries. Let's get started.
John Gomez, your host for the podcast, where I feature thought and community leaders who discuss the intersection of law and our Latino community. This episode is brought to you by Gomez Trial Attorneys, a personal injury law firm based in San Diego and one of the largest Latino plaintiffs law firms in the country. Award-winning attorney John Gomez developed a nationally recognized legal team that goes above and beyond for injured clients. With numerous designations, distinctions, and top-notch resources, we have what it takes to fight and win against major corporations. For a free case evaluation, visit www.thegomezfirm.com. Today, I have Chad here from Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs. We have flipped the script, and today he will be interviewing me. Chad, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, John. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to talking with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
Good. Hey, as we get into it, this is kind of your first podcast episode, so we're looking forward to learning a little bit more about you and a little bit about your life and your legal journey. If you could start by just telling me how and when you knew you wanted to become an attorney.
It's a funny question because, growing up, I didn't know any lawyers, didn't have any ideas about being a lawyer. But my senior year in college, my roommate at the time was in law school. He was a good friend of mine. I knew him from junior college those days. He was going to law school. He was describing it to me. I saw what it looked like for him. And I decided, hey, I'm going to be a lawyer like my friend.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Well, you certainly didn't decide to take the easy route. You attended Yale for law school. What was that like, and how did you kind of overcome all the challenges associated with, going to a school like that?
Yeah, Yale Law School, probably one of the most academic, rigorous environments in the world. Every kid I met there was like a Rhodes Scholar, this scholar, or Fulbright Scholar, top of their class at like an Ivy League school. And I was kind of over my head to begin with. I would actually every day go to class and write down a bunch of words I'd never heard before, and I would define them. And over time, I just kind of caught up and found my way. And I think the thing that got me through is just working really hard.
Yeah, good for you. So you graduated from Yale. How did you kind of, get started in the legal industry then?
Yeah, so a lot of kids that come out of Yale, they want to work for judges. We have these clerkships. And so I had a clerkship with a judge right here in San Diego, where I'm from, Judge Huff. So I worked with her for 1 year. And then I went to a large law firm in Los Angeles called Latham & Watkins.
What did you learn there?
Latham, very, very, very good firm. Really learned commitment to excellence. Everything that we produced there was very, very, very high quality. Also just worked a ton, like a lot. And so I think I learned to really, give a lot of time and energy to perfecting my craft.
I know you, part of your journey includes being a federal prosecutor. Is that what came next?
Yeah, that was the next move. At Latham Watkins, you've got these like billion-dollar matters, and I wanted to try cases that is be in front of juries. And no way they're going to let a kid like me do that. So I decided I would come back to San Diego, where I clerked, and work as a federal prosecutor. And I knew that would get me into trial.
So that was what made you decide to become a federal prosecutor. What did you enjoy most about that?
Just camaraderie, working with the agents, being in court every day. It's the first place where I really began to try cases. So, we'd be in trial quite often. There was a good camaraderie about the office. We were in trial all the time. I really enjoyed being in trial, so those kinds of things.
What was it about being, especially as a relatively younger lawyer, what was it about being in the courtroom and in trial that was, particularly invigorating for you?
This is cool. As a young prosecutor, I get the case. It's just my case. So I'm standing in front of the jury on behalf of the United States of America. That's a powerful feeling. Um, at that point, I determined I wanted to try cases. And so here, actually having the chance to do that and, working with the agents and the side of the law that I thought was the right side of the law was always a cool thing.
Yeah, sounds great. So what motivated you to transition then from federal prosecutor to civil plaintiffs lawyer?
Yeah, so I did that for a while, and it was fun and fulfilling. But at a point in time, it became clear to me that my life's work was not going to be putting people into prison. And most of the work I was doing involved border issues, and so a lot of my defendants were Mexican nationals. And at least early in my career, a lot of them kind of, economically disadvantaged, challenged Mexican nationals. And so, that didn't super float my boat. A lot of what I was doing was, narcotics, like war on drugs, cartel work, and in the end, that didn't super float my boat. I didn't think, I'd be changing the world that much by taking on the war on drugs or this particular cartel versus that cartel. And so, like, it really became more of a, life's value kind of question. Is this what I want to spend my life doing? And, I thought, well, rather than working on behalf of the United States, putting people in prison, it might be cool to take these skills that I now have and use them to help, regular people.
Great. So how did you get started then as a civil plaintiffs lawyer?
I first went to work. I applied to all the top plaintiffs lawyers here in San Diego. At that time, I'd worked at Latham Watkins, Yale Law School, tried to win 20 cases. I thought everybody would give me a job, but I only got one reply. And it was a guy named Craig McClellan, a very well-known plaintiff's lawyer here in San Diego. He gave me a job, and so I went to work for him. We were mainly doing big automotive defect cases, so a lot of cases against Ford Motor Company, General Motors, Japanese manufacturers. Very interesting and challenging work.
What made you decide to start your own firm?
I think many of us kind of want to do things our own way. He certainly had his way. Maybe he was a generation different than me. Probably like some of my lawyers look at me today, but I wanted to get out there and kind of do things my way, maybe do things a little more different, test my own self and my own brand and see if I could make it on my own.
Well, your firm is almost 20 years old. You're about 19 years old now. What is maybe something you're most proud of during your time at the helm of your own firm?
I would say, like, most proud, probably twofold. One, we've helped a ton of people in very significant ways. And so a lot of times when clients come to us, their life is at a crossroads. They're on the verge of, maybe losing, their home, their family. Things are quite perilous for them. And so, helping those families put life back together, helping people get on with their lives, I would say one. And then two, like over the course of, like you said, 19 years, you have whole generations. You have like employees have kids and the kids grow up and, you see all that and you take some small, reward from having a part in that, that's, I would say, the second coolest thing.
Yeah, that's got to be quite satisfying. What are some of the core values of your firm?
We have 10, I could name them all, but, the first one is we always do the right thing. So that means that we always act with ethics and integrity in everything we do. We're never going to put our interests above the interests of our clients or be dishonest or anything else. We're the best at everything we do. That just means super high performance levels expected at every position and every task. We try cases to juries. That means that what it says, we're active trial lawyers. We know that customer service matters. We really, take very good care of our clients, very open lines of communication. We never stop learning. That means that we're always, advancing, whether it be in trial presentation or technology, all of those things, we're always kind of marching ahead. We make our communities better. We give back to our communities and causes that matter to us. We believe in one for all and all for one, so we support each other. We reward loyalty. We reward loyalty within the firm and outside of the firm. We have fun, just means what it says. We work hard, again, just kind of means what it says. And I think that's probably 10 of them, more or less. If there's one I forgot, my apologies.
No, I think you summed them up quite well. As you look back on then on the last 19 years, what would you say is there like an accomplishment or a moment that you feel is most significant to you or most memorable?
Probably a few. I tried a case very early in the firm's history, very well-known case. It was called the American Beauty murder. Got a lot of press. It was on TV all day. Well, not all day, like while we were in trial. And we won that case. It was a very difficult case. And so that really launched us. After that, we were involved in a case in which a CHP officer and his family died at the end of a freeway. They were in basically a runaway Lexus vehicle. It started all the Toyota recalls. That was a big moment for us and for the firm and obviously for that family. We tried the first DePuy hip case in the country. This was a defective hip, which basically, there were probably 100,000 of those cases. And those cases resolved, I think, in part because of that verdict. And so, there's a ton of kind of big moments, but, those are kind of three that kind of stick out.
What is your approach to leadership when it comes to, leading your firm?
I think the more I've done this, the more I've learned that you have to be very intentional about leadership. And so I think the first thing I like to do is just lead from the front. That is, I'm in here early and working hard and trying cases and walking the walk, doing all those things. Another one is like transparency, like sharing information, sharing pathways and how we think, where we're going, what we plan to do to get there, how they're going to be a part of it. I think really, not reacting in the moment to things. A lot of employees or team members will bring things to my attention and, you have kind of this visceral kind of reaction sometimes, but I think it's important to, honor and appreciate, whatever's brought to you. And, I think just, if you circle back to our core values in every decision, whether it be management or hiring or firing or elevation, then that'll provide a lot of guidance, I think.
I know you are deeply involved in a number of charitable and community organizations. Can you just kind of talk about how you give back to the community?
Yeah, of course. I think, for us as a firm, kids really matter. So, we try to do a lot for kids in the community. We have maybe our kind of bedrock charity is a youth boxing gym here in town that provides free after-school boxing and tutoring to, at-risk kids. So heavily involved in that, heavily involved in a number of other charities that kind of cater to and take care of, disadvantaged communities and particularly kids. We're also very, I would say, the core of our firm here is female, like we're mainly female. And so, we have an internal group called the Women Leaders of GTA. And, that group really spearheads a lot of educational outreach, programs around advancement and protection of women in law and elsewhere. And then we do a ton, obviously for the Latino community, whether that be through kind of local organizations or national ones.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how does your Latino heritage influence your personal and professional life?
I think every second of the day, right? I mean, we are who we are. And so, the lens that I see the world through is probably shaped, in part by that identity. I tend to, look at issues, through that lens and, where there's kind of a question. A lot of, our questions today involve, peoples and cultures and communities, like, is this right? Is that wrong? And a lot of that goes back to kind of your values, I think, about where you're from, how you're brought up, what your belief system is. And so in terms of, my life as a human, I filter a lot of it through that. I kind of have a heart for what I would call the kind of disenfranchised or, those communities among us that have faced struggles historically, including, the Latino community. As a lawyer, we just try to, really make our excellent services available to that community, whether it's in English or Spanish, at the same level. Like, we want to provide them the same level of law that Wall Street gets, like the rich people get. And we try to do it in their language. And so we're consistently, trying to provide super high level legal services. And then at the same time, looking for issues that we can get involved in that we think will, affect, social change.
Great. Very, very nice. Last question before we get into your podcast. What role does your faith play in your life and your work?
Again, I would say, every day I am a person of faith. And so, everything kind of revolves around my relationship with God and Jesus Christ. And so, again, I'll filter my decisions through that lens and the things that I've learned by virtue of that relationship and scripture and, teaching. I read, I pray, obviously, and read the Bible daily. We have a prayer group here at the firm, a little group, obviously voluntary, where, we do a little Bible study, do a little prayer together, so I'm not, private or embarrassed about it. I try to be public and make it available to anyone that needs it or wants it.
Sounds good. Let's get into your podcast then a little bit. As I mentioned, this is basically your first episode. Tell me what made you decide to start this podcast.
Like I said, the more I kind of look at issues that face us as a people or as a nation or as a community, the more I see that, race and identity and language and culture has a lot to do with outcomes. And so, there are so many ways the law can be shaped by the Latino community influence, and so many ways that the Latino community people can be shaped by law. Like, it works both ways and in an evolving fashion. We have here at the firm in our boardroom portraits of, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. and Bobby Kennedy and Jack Kennedy and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And you just think about, you could take any of those examples. You could say, okay, women and the law. Let's talk about the effect of law on women in our society. And you could talk about that for days and, both historically and aspirational. Obviously you could do the same with the African-American community, right? You could roll it back 2 generations and, here's their reality world. And then you roll it back to today and here's the reality in their world. And then you think about it 2 generations hence, what does it look like ideally, or what does it look like pragmatically, or what do we really think it looks like? And so, like, I don't think those discussions have been had with great focus and intention around law in the Latino community. And the Latino community obviously is a large community with a whole lot of different parts to it, but there are, if you roll us back 2 generations, what does that look like? If you roll it back to the 60s, what does it look like? If you get into Cesar Chavez, what does it look like? If you talk about it today, what does it look like? We have, this anti-immigrant backlash in a lot of places and within a lot of people, how does that affect things? As we go forward, what are we looking at in terms of, in my community in California, like without question, the Latino community will be the majority, in California, if not already very soon, and I would say the same throughout the Southwest. And like, what does that really look like? And how does law evolve to accommodate that? And how can we be good, stewards of that law? Because the people I want to have on are going to be people largely that have some responsibility, whether they're lawyers, whether they're judges, whether they're elected officials or community leaders. Maybe we have on some people that have really championed change for other communities, African American. Maybe I have like a Ben Crump on here to talk about, the intersection of law and African American community. Maybe, we have someone that was a champion for women, what that looked like. Maybe we can learn from them. Like, let's talk about, and then, you expand it, like, what does it look like for, Asian Americans today? Or, what does it look like for Islamic Americans today? Just like a lot of interesting discussions, that I think need more intentional discovery. And so that's the point of the podcast. That's what I want to do. I want to, get together people that have thoughts and ideas and experiences and put them all together and see what comes out.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Very interesting. I will certainly look forward to checking out.
Yeah, it should be cool.
Thank you. So long, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Latino podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.